everyone, I'm Liz Bernstein.
And I'm Robin Cartwright.
And thank you for clicking on this video. We normally wouldn't do something so breaking news kind of thing, but right. I am confused. I'm just going to be honest. I've been getting a lot of emails about the meeting that is happening this Tuesday at 9 a.m., the Board of County Commissioner meeting, and I think it's important that since we're trying to keep ourselves and Martin County informed, that we do this episode to really just talk about what is going on. So in the emails I'm getting, please show up, show that we don't want more traffic, we don't want, more development, which I agree, the traffic in Martin County is horrendous, and I think we need to really be concerned about flooding in our little small town.
Yeah.
But what is happening Tuesday at 9 a.m.?
So it's a regular scheduled county meeting. I think there's a couple of things that are happening. The first of which is the emails that we're getting are specific to a development by an applicant, right? So I think most of what you're talking about is the emails referencing Colusa Creek.
Yes.
And the development application that's come in. That in and of itself is a whole situation because it's asking for a land use amendment, which means that it's already designated for agriculture, and now the developer wants to come in and make it something different so they can build golf courses and houses and whatever else they want to put on the property. That's its own separate thing. Prior to that I don't think a lot of people are aware of, there is actually an amendment that is going to be presented for the commission to vote on that will directly impact the Colusa Creek vote.
So this is actually before the Colusa Creek vote on the meeting on Tuesday. There's going to be this amendment up.
Right. So this amendment, CPA 22-06, talks about, let me back up. Originally, when the rural lifestyle was approved, one of the caveats was it must touch the urban service district or urban service boundary.
Correct. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people were in support of it, because it was a very limited number of properties that, or, not properties, but land that could be developed.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they were in support of it, that if it had to happen, that was the best case scenario.
Okay.
That if they were going to let it happen, that was the best case scenario.
Because it limited, since it had to touch the boundary.
Right, because at least then the infrastructure that needed to be provided would be limited in the impact to the community, because the developer doesn't pay for that infrastructure. We as taxpayers pay for that infrastructure.
Okay.
Even though they say, oh, it'll generate tax revenue, that's not for years down the road, and that's been proven. So that fallacy of a statement that's presented is really rather farcical when it comes to
Right, and it doesn't even make sense, right? How is it creating that income now if...
Never mind that they've had an exemption, being an agricultural piece of land, for however many years they've owned it. Right. So they've not really put into the system, but regardless. One of the things that was approved, like we talked about, was it had to touch the urban service boundary.
Okay.
This text amendment that's being presented prior to the Colusa Creek vote now says, well, if you're within 6,000 feet of the urban service district or the urban service boundary, then you too can qualify for the rural lifestyle amendment. So now we've taken this whole text amendment that was presented before the commission. It was litigated in front of an administrative law judge. It has gone through the rigmarole of all of these steps that need to be done. Now we're saying, that's okay. You don't really need to abide by that. Now you just have to kind of be within earshot of it, perhaps. And now that same infrastructure of what we required for that previous text amendment is now out the window. There have been some decisions that were made by the commission that you had to follow certain rules, right? You had to touch the urban service boundary to even qualify.
Right. I remember that being important.
Right. Well, except now on Tuesday, now they're going to have a text amendment to the text amendment that basically says, you don't really need to touch the urban service boundary. Now you can be within 6,000 feet of the urban service boundary. But the bigger issue is that directly impacts the ability to provide infrastructure.
Right.
For things like sewer, for things like roadways, regardless of school concurrency, regardless of traffic concerns, there are direct implications by this. Never mind, one, it's a direct violation of the comprehensive plan, but two, they just ruled on this a year ago. So why is this text amendment coming forward right before the vote for this parcel and this property that is highly debated and contested?
I'm guessing there's nothing else but this amendment, right? So there's no the company needs to then do A, B, C, and D if they're...
Right, because they're separate. They're treated separately. Any text amendments or land use amendments are one vote. Any zoning is one vote, any site plan is another vote, and they're done very deliberately that way so that there cannot be any concern about, did you vote on this just because it was this applicant? Did you change this text amendment?
Okay.
So it's done in a very thoughtful way in that respect. When the Martin County Growth Department said basically that the traffic would be less with this development, well, right now it's agriculture. It can't be any less
Right.
traffic-wise.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Right. Cows don't drive. So it
Let's hope
cannot
not.
be, well, that'd be
Yeah.
weird and amazing and fascinating, but cows don't drive. So traffic would not be less. The semantics of it are very unfortunate because this impact of this text amendment will have an impact way down the road beyond
Right,
this
it's
Colusa
opening the
Creek
door
vote.
for way more developments than just
Right.
Colusa Creek.
Right. With the rural lifestyle vote, there were 4 development opportunities that could have happened, inclusive of Colusa Creek, because something else would have happened before it, because that urban service boundary will continuously be moved. It's not a one and done. Every time we approve a development, it gets moved again, and then it gets moved again. So this text amendment is super important, and I hope that people will come to the meeting on Tuesday at 9 a.m. at the Board of County Commissioners office on Monterey. It's important that your voice be heard. It's important that you know what's happening in your community. Even if you don't think you're being impacted, ultimately you are.
Absolutely. Do you use our roads? Do you
pay taxes?
Right. Well, yeah, good point, right? Yeah. At the meeting, are they going to be, does this just come up as a straight vote, or is there any time for public comments?
There should be time for public comment. That's a great question. There should be a time for people to make a public comment, but people can also make public comments at the opening of the meeting if they're not sure where they fall on the agenda. The commission does allow you to make public comment during that initial opening of the meeting, even if you aren't able to speak to the specific item that you want to address. So regardless if you can stay for the whole meeting, please come out to the meeting on Tuesday. It's important that your voice be heard.
Okay, great. So if you have something to do, shortly after 9 a.m., you could still give the general comment in the beginning.
Right. You may have to wait to give your comment depending on how many people are in attendance, but absolutely you can give your comment, go about your day. But it is important that we know what's happening on our city and county commission agendas. It's important that we know how they're voting because in 2024.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So this matters because November 2024, I believe 3 of our commissioners are up for re-election.
They
right?
are. Yep.
Yeah.
It is
And
Campy, Jenkins, and Smith. And so there is a chance for us to amend who serves on the commission. But if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always gotten. And we need to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to hold our commissioners accountable. Our comprehensive plan exists for a reason. There's a reason that we have these things written down. I mean, why even have a planning department if a developer can just come in and arbitrarily decide,
Right.
oh, I want to change this, and our development department assists them in doing so. I understand it's their job to present it to the commission, but they can do it in a way that is a little less impactful without giving the appearance of endorsement.
Right.
Yeah.
And, since you are a Martin County resident, you are directly affected by this. If you have any more questions or anything, please feel free to reach out to the county and write emails to the administrative staff or even your actual commissioners. And don't forget that these government officials are here to serve us. So you are not bothering them or taking up more of their day. That is their public duty.
Right.
And if you can't make the meeting, please send an email with how you feel and how you want the commissioners to vote.
Absolutely. We look forward to seeing you Tuesday at the commission meeting. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.